Calaroga Shark Media.
From Old Man Mountain, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news, a daily briefing on stand-up comedy, comedians, and the comedy industry. A sentence the algorithm loves. Boy, this first story I don't even know how to comment on. But just while we're on Old Man Mountain, I was at the National Donuts chain, and a young lady, college age, pulls right into the handicap spot like that's totally okay, gets her coffee, gets back in. You're fine. It's all about you. But that's not why we're here. On comedy, Nikki Glaser was on Alex Cooper's podcast and talked about the wonders of the hot husband fetish. Stay with me. Nikki Glaser said, in a relationship, I don't really care if my boyfriend were to hook up, but that's not a two-way street. I'm not someone who likes to hook up when I'm in a relationship. I don't really care about that, but I don't care if someone else were to. In fact, I kind of like it. And again, I live in Old Man Mountain. That's where my head explodes. But okay, you do you, Nikki. She explained this has been a successful ongoing thing since she got with her boyfriend 13 years ago. Nikki said, I didn't really have a boyfriend before that. I would always ask him about past hookups and girlfriends and how they got together, like, how did you first know you liked each other? I love that. She explains, it would make me horny to think about him doing that with other girls, so I'd ask about all his girlfriends or anyone he had hooked up with, all the details about it, and it would really be like a foreplay for me. I would get revved up talking about it. But you see, then, he ran out of stories. Nikki Glaser explains, it wasn't as exciting anymore because I was getting the same stuff. I had never heard of anything like this fetish. As the story goes, Nikki Glaser apparently encouraged her boyfriend to come home with more stories. Nikki Glaser told Alex Cooper, I want a guy that other girls want. But there were rules, rules like no kissing. Nikki explained, if a guy has a sexual connection with a girl and he wants to use protection and just have sex for a night, I literally wouldn't care if my husband did that. I don't know why. If he were to watch The Wire with her or do crossword puzzles or send memes or stuff, I'd be like, what the F are you doing? That's our thing. Emotional cheating would hurt me. Nikki Glaser has a special coming out later this month. This next story, I had to check to make sure it wasn't an April Fool's story that I had missed earlier in the week, but no, the Dateline April 7th. Apparently, in the Call of Duty game, there's a Dave Chappelle 420 skin. Apparently, you'll be able to play Call of Duty while dressed up as Thurgood Jenkins, the fictional character from 1998's Half-Baked, played by Dave Chappelle. An Activision blog post explains there's something good going on at Frankincense and Burr Pharmaceutical, and Thurgood Jenkins is right in the middle of it. The master of custodial arts takes his chance to have some fun and save a friend, memorialized in this bundle, inspired by the 1998 hit comedy Half-Baked. Okay, then. Judy Gold tells Page 6 she is shocked by how brazen anti-Semites have become at the city's comedy clubs. She said she was performing at the New York Comedy Club. An audience member shouted out, "You're a Jew." She tells Page 6, this one guy was being really disruptive, and I said, you're annoying a comedian. I was just talking to him because the crowd was great, and he would just yell stuff. I've been doing this since I was 19. I can handle anything. A source tells Page 6 that the bully did not go quietly. A witness says he was talking to the security guy, wanted to get in his face, wanted to fight him outside. Then the next night, Judy Gold said some guy made a comment about Jews being cheap, so I said, thanks for bringing that trope back from 1600. She said she hadn't heard that particular one in 30 years. The last time it happened was 30-plus years ago in Marietta, Georgia. Someone yelled out, Jews have all the money, and I said, yeah, that's why I'm doing this gig in Marietta, Georgia, which is a great comeback. As a New Yorker, although I haven't lived in the city now for a good 25 years, I don't know, I have to do math. I do find that surprising. Again, I'm not going to say people never say vile things, but I don't run into such things. The Atlantic had an article I found pretty interesting. I'm going to go first here and say I have no expertise to comment on this at all. I don't have the perspective or the experience, but I do want to read it to you. It's by K. Austin Collins. The headline, Who is Black Comedy For? The subheader, a new book is nostalgic for the 90s, but the era of crossover success was not necessarily the pinnacle of black comedic achievement. K. Austin Collins writes, early in his career, before he became a household name, Dave Chappelle attempted to get a series off the ground at Fox. It was 1998, and the network had already welcomed black comedies such as Living Single, Martin, and In Living Color, shows that implied a vested interest in black taste. Chappelle might have expected to find a receptive audience when he presented the pilot for Dave Chappelle, a sitcom based on his life as a young black comedian. What he reportedly got instead was a room full of white executives with a familiar set of complaints. There were not enough white people on his proposed show. It was not universal enough, meaning it was too black. Swap out the black female lead for a white one, and add an additional white character, he was advised. All this despite Fox being, as Chappelle put it at the time, a network that had built itself on black viewers. He refused to cooperate, remarking the incident, quote, tells every black artist, no matter what you do, you need whites to succeed. K. Austin Collins continues. Good stuff here. Chappelle was caught up in a whirlwind of change in the TV landscape. The successes of black sitcoms in the 1980s and 90s had made new shows marketable for the mainstream, parentheses, read not just black, mainstream audiences, but the marketability had come with a catch. In the late 90s, there was a broader push for multiculturalism, which came to be defined in a great many cases as whiteness plus. White protagonists with their black, Asian, and Latino friends. Blackness not as a set of experiences in itself, but as proof positive of the white hero's ability to learn. Jokes that might offend or even just confuse white audiences became harder sells, and safe crossover appeal became the norm. A few years prior to Chappelle's pitch, Keenan Ivory Wayans had left his show over issues that reportedly included censorship from Fox. K. Austin Collins continues. Fast forward half a decade to the now famous story of Chappelle's show. He mastered a comic style that highlighted the absurdity of racism by taking it to its extremes, while also leaning on and exploring black in-jokes without translating them for white viewers. His bits became memes before most of us knew what a meme was, and, taking advantage of Comedy Central's comparatively lax rules, he insisted on using the N-word liberally. This Chappelle show was everything that the 1998 concept couldn't be, and ironically, though the show made no effort whatsoever to be universal, it nevertheless won a rabid and diverse audience. In 2005, Chappelle walked away from a reported $50 million contract he'd signed with Comedy Central the previous year. Most people were baffled by his decision, but in interviews he explained that the fame and pressure had weighed on him, and the show's popularity, especially among people who were ostensibly the butt of the jokes, indicated that his work had not been received as he'd intended. In the end, Chappelle followed the logic he had set for himself early on in his career. Mainstream approval was never more important than the integrity of the material or its maker. The book is Blackout Loud, The Revolutionary History of Black Comedy from Vaudeville to 90s Sitcoms. The book is by Jeff Bennett. The piece I just read to you is in The Atlantic and titled Who is Black Comedy For? The Boston Globe wrote about Louis C.K. They write, you may have heard that Netflix is back in the Louis C.K. business. Last week, the streaming behemoth announced that the once-disgraced comedian will headline the Hollywood Bowl on May 5th, blah, blah, blah. The Globe writes, in truth, he never entirely went away. Yeah, he immediately lost his TV deal with FX, including his series Louis. The mainstream entertainment machine shunned him for a time, but he soon began self-promoting his own comedy shows in which he passively-aggressively painted himself as a victim of cancellation. He won a Grammy for Best Comedy Album in 2022, and he's been slithering back into the public consciousness for a while. The Netflix deal didn't happen overnight. I did watch some comedy specials during the week. I started with Sheng Wang. I really liked his previous special, and I was excited for this one and wound up disappointed by it and didn't finish it. It's fine. I just found it was a Mitch Hedberg cover. I don't know how else to describe it. Even the way he punches words, and maybe it's just the way he speaks, but I'm watching it, I'm like, this just feels like a Mitch Hedberg cover band. Kind of disappointed in that one. Then I put on Sarah Millican, even though my brain had been poisoned by the Facebook group. Some people had watched it already. It's fine. It's whatever. I mean, I don't hate it, don't love it, didn't make it that much into it. It's fine. It is what it is. And then my favorite of the three I watched was Aaron Chen's special. This one called Funny Garden, and I think it just had an original point of view and was pretty good. It's low energy and low produced, and it kind of works. So out of the three, watch Aaron Chen. You'll find all three that I just mentioned on Netflix. We're starting to get closer to the 2026 Great American Comedy Festival. This is the one every year in Johnny Carson's hometown, and they have announced that a group of magicians will headline the Comedy and Magic Show on Thursday, June 18th at the Johnny Carson Theater. Festival Executive Director Pat Jansen said all four of these performers have been raved about by the other top magicians and comedians. Everyone I talk to says, holy cow, what a trio of acts. Well, who are they? There's Julie Chen. In 1997, Julie became the first woman and first magician of Chinese heritage to win a world championship in the 50-year history of the awkward pause here as John rolls into a sentence in French. I'm going to half-ass translate it as the International Federation Magic Society would be my rough translation there. The world's leading organization for the art of magic. David Kovac specializes in combining humorous monologues with cleverly crafted magic routines. He has a solo show, Fooling Buddha, where he plays 10 different characters, including a magician. And the Evasons, no N in there, Evasons, Jeff and Tessa Evison, are internationally acclaimed mentalists whose demonstrations of telepathy have amazed audiences in more than 40 countries. One of the few married couples in history to master the rare art of second sight, they create the impression that two minds are working as one. Pretty cool. Magic shows, Thursday, June 18th. Improv, headlined by Bluebird Improv on June 19th. And Charlie Beren's is your headliner June 20th, all at the Johnny Carson Theater. Charlie Beren's been making the news a lot lately. Let's check in on the Melbourne Comedy Festival. The folks at Scenester went to see Zainab Johnson. They wrote, there's a point in Toxically Optimistic where Zainab Johnson starts talking about why Americans are so attached to guns. And instead of going where you expect, she flips it. It's not about politics, not really. It's because, according to her, Americans can't fight. That's kind of the rhythm of the whole show. She takes something heavy, or at least something that feels like it should be heavy, and twists it just enough that you're laughing before you've had time to brace yourself. Here is a clip.
I got a gun. Yeah, well, I, not on me. I should have said that. Didn't make it through customs. Here's the thing. I didn't want a gun. I got a house, so I got a gun. I'm making it seem like it came with the house, right? It wasn't 3 bedrooms and a Glock. But here's the thing. Like, now that I have it, I know you shouldn't say it because for it to be most effective, it should be a surprise, right? But I like saying it. I don't know why. I feel like it makes my boundaries very clear. You know, if I tell you I have a gun at the beginning of the night, then you know where the night can go, right? Sometimes I just like to say it, like I'll pull up to a car at like a red light, I'll look at the car next to me and I'll be like, I got a gun. I say it on dates. When I'm on a date, I say it really cute though. I'm like, I got a gun, shut up. Pum, 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 shut up. Stop, pum.
They like this show a lot, and that clip is really good. They say Johnson's delivery is clean, almost deceptively so. There's no chaos to hide behind, no rambling. Every beat feels placed. It gives the material space to land, even when she's jumping between ideas that shouldn't quite sit together. Good review, and that is your comedy news for today. I will catch you tomorrow.